Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kevin Vogel, and I'm the Chief of Police for the City of Santa Cruz. We at the Santa Cruz Police Department are deeply saddened at the loss of Detective Sergeant Butch Baker and Detective Elizabeth Butler. We're a small department. We consider ourselves to be family. Today, as I said yesterday, is one of the darkest days in the history of our department. Today we mourn the loss of our brother Butch and our sister Elizabeth, and we grieve with their families. I'd like to provide you with a little bit more information about both Butch and Elizabeth. Butch was a 28-year veteran of the Santa Cruz Police Department. He started working here in 1985. I had a special relationship with Butch. He and I started with the department about the same time. We worked as partners together in our investigation section back in the early 1990s. We worked well together. We were close. We were good friends. We worked a lot of good cases together. I considered Butch not only to be my coworker, but he was also my mentor and he was my friend. Butch is also a husband. He's a father, he's a brother, and he's a son. He leaves behind his wife Kelly, his son Adam, who is a community service officer with our department, and his daughters Jillian and Ashley. During Butch's tenure with the police department, he served as a field training officer. He was a remarkable teacher, coach, mentor, trained a lot of the staff at the police department, and became the mentor for a lot of the young officers that worked for me. That mentorship never stopped throughout his whole career. Even after he left the training unit at the police department, he continued in every assignment that he had to teach our new officers and develop them. To the extent that we have several people that are higher ranking than sergeant in our department today that were actually trained by Butch, including myself. In addition to his training officer skills, he was also a traffic investigator. He drove our DUI car back in the early 1990s. He was a skilled investigator. He was promoted to police sergeant in 1997 after having been with the police department for 12 years. And he's been a police sergeant for the last 16 years. He's been assigned to our investigation section for the last several years. One of the things about Butch is Butch was a remarkable investigator and just had that tenacious appetite to find the truth. If there was ever a case that I wanted somebody who was going to give it their all and do the best job that they could on a case, Butch Baker was the one to do that for us. In fact, I would go so far as to say Butch was my most skilled investigator with my police department. We're going to miss him. Detective Elizabeth Butler has been with the department for the last 10 years. She worked in patrol as a police officer. She was assigned to our narcotics task force in this county for a period of time. And after that, she became a detective in our investigation section, and she really found her niche in the investigation of sexual assault cases, and that's where her expertise really lied. And that's the type of case that she was investigating yesterday when this tragic event happened. I would also consider Elizabeth to be a friend. I didn't know Elizabeth as long as I knew Butch, but as I said before, we're a small family at Santa Cruz Police Department with a staff of only 94 sworn police officers. We're all very close here. Elizabeth leaves behind her partner Peter and her 2 young boys. Her boys are 5 and 1. In terms of how we're doing at the department, I think probably from what you can see from the way I'm reacting this morning, we're having a tough time with this. We have never experienced anything like this in my career. We've seen what other departments have gone through. They've had tragedies across the state with officers being killed in the line of duty, and we've always had kind of an outside perspective on what that looks like. But you can't gain that true perspective on what this feels like until it happens to you. I remember attending the Oakland Police Department funeral when the 4 officers were killed years ago, and at the time I thought to myself, I couldn't even imagine what it feels like to be going through what Chief Jordan experienced at the time of that. And after the events that happened yesterday afternoon, unfortunately I now understand. So the department is in mourning. Our officers are off today. The city is being protected. The community is being protected by the Santa Cruz County Sheriff's Office as well as the California Highway Patrol. They'll be covering police services in the city at this point through tomorrow morning. We will be developing a transition plan to put our officers back on the street tomorrow, assuming they're ready for that. In the meantime, we're providing grief counseling services to our officers, and we're doing the best job we can as we know how to help our staff recover from this horrific event. It's been devastating. There's absolutely no words for me to adequately stand here before you today and describe what my department's been going through since yesterday afternoon. My immediate concern, as I mentioned yesterday, is for the well-being of every member of my police department. And to that end, we are doing all we can to ensure their well-being. And I think the last thing I want to say is, actually, last 2 things I want to just say, if you have questions about whether our community is safe today, yes, our community is safe. We have as many police officers patrolling the streets of Santa Cruz today as we did yesterday. You're just going to notice that they're wearing a different uniform. They'll be wearing the uniform of the Santa Cruz County Sheriff's Office as well as the uniform of the California Highway Patrol. Before I conclude and turn this over to the sheriff to provide you with some details on the investigation, I want to thank our local law enforcement community in Santa Cruz. I'd like to extend my thanks to our law enforcement partners in Santa Clara County, Monterey County, San Benito County, and for that matter throughout the state. We have received such an outpouring of support from our local law enforcement leaders all around the state, as well as our state law enforcement leaders. I received a telephone call last night from the State Attorney General, Kamala Harris, as well as our federal law enforcement partners. It's just been remarkable, the outpouring of support. So I want to make sure that I extend that thanks to them. And I want to thank our community. We had community members here at the police department last night that set up candles at the department. We've had people delivering flowers and gifts since yesterday to the department. The outpouring of support has just been remarkable. And I just can't say enough good things about our community here in Santa Cruz. So I want to make sure that the community understands the appreciation that we as a department feel for the support that we've received from our community. And the last thing I'd like to do is I'd like to offer our condolences as a police department to the families of our fallen brother and sister. I had contact with the families yesterday afternoon, and as you can imagine, it's just devastating on everybody involved. So I want to offer those condolences to the families, and we mourn and we grieve together. So with that, I will conclude. I'd like to thank you all for being here, and I'm going to turn this over to the sheriff of our county, Phil Wowack, and he will give an investigative update on the status of the criminal investigation. So, I'm sorry. One more thing I'd like to do before I conclude. This is going to be hard. I've got pictures of our fallen officers that I'd like to show, and we will make these available if you'd like them by email. Photograph of Detective Sergeant Butch Baker, and photograph of Detective Elizabeth Butler. I will leave copies of these photographs on the podium after we conclude if you'd like to take photographs of them. I would just ask that you leave them here so everybody has the opportunity to grab pictures of them. And with that, I conclude. Thank you very much.